Australia is famous for its beaches, but almost no one sees that 70% of the continent is nearly empty. A landmass larger than India with barely 0.1 people per square kilometer in most of its interior. Yet, the Outback has been home to expert survivors for over 50,000 years, long before cities lined the coast. Every expectation you have about life here is about to unravel. Here is why. Australia stretches across 7.7 million square kilometers, an expanse that ranks among the largest countries on Earth. Yet when it comes to people, the numbers tell a different story. 89% of Australians live in bustling cities and towns that cling to the coast, especially along the eastern and southeastern edges of the continent. The rest of the land, the vast interior, remains almost empty. Here the Outback dominates, covering close to 70% of the continent's landmass. In these regions, population density drops to just a fraction of a person per square kilometer, sometimes as low as 0.1 person per square kilometer. On a population density map, the contrast is stark. Cities like Melbourne and Sydney show up as dense clusters with tens of thousands of people packed into each square kilometer. But as the view shifts inland, those numbers collapse. The Outback stretches for thousands of kilometers with barely a dot of settlement, interrupted only by the occasional mining town or cattle station. In some areas outside Darwin, the density is so low that a single person might have hundreds of square kilometers to themselves. Despite this emptiness, the Outback is not a single unbroken desert. It is a patchwork of arid plains, rocky ranges, salt lakes, and scrubland, shaped by erratic rainfall and some of the least fertile soils on the planet. The distances between settlements are measured not in minutes, but in hours or even days. This scale and isolation demand a way of life unlike anywhere else, where survival depends on adaptation, resourcefulness, and deep knowledge of the land. 50,000 years ago, people first crossed from Southeast Asia to Australia in simple boats, carrying only what they could hold and what they could remember. Over generations, they moved inland, learning to read a landscape that offered few obvious signs of life. In the heart of the continent, Arrernte elders became custodians of survival, passing down knowledge that turned the Outback from a barrier into a home. Finding water meant more than luck. Elders learned to spot river redgums and sedges that hinted at hidden soakages beneath the sand. Birds circling overhead, the sudden chatter of galas, or fresh animal tracks near a dry riverbed could signal water below. When the surface was bone dry, roots from native plants like kumbungi or desert figs were dug up, pounded, and strained to release precious moisture. Seasons were not measured by months, but by the flowering of desert peas, the arrival of witchetty grubs, or the fatness of goannas. These signs dictated when to hunt, when to burn, and when to travel. Fire was not just for warmth or cooking. Controlled burning, sometimes called fire stick farming, cleared old growth, encouraged new shoots, and drew animals to fresh pasture. Over time, these mosaics of burnt and unburnt land created a patchwork that supported both people and wildlife. Songlines, woven into stories and songs, served as oral maps. Each line marked pathways between water holes, sacred sites, and distant ranges, guiding travelers safely across hundreds of kilometers. Digging sticks, stone tools, and foraging baskets shaped daily life, turning what looked barren into a place of hidden abundance. Through careful teaching, each generation learned not just how to survive, but how to thrive, proof that the Outback was never empty, only misunderstood. A trip from Alice Springs to Uluru looks simple enough on a map, just a straight line, about 450 kilometers. But for residents, that distance means at least 5 hours on the road, sometimes 6 if the track is rough or the weather turns. Before setting out, locals run through a mental checklist, fill the tank, pack at least 20 liters of water per person, check both spare tires, and make sure the satellite phone is charged. Even a short drive to a neighboring community can become a test of preparation if a tire blows or the temperature climbs past 40 degrees Celsius. In Alice Springs, home to nearly 29,000 people, planning is second nature. School teachers, mechanics, and nurses all learn early that isolation shapes every decision. The Royal Flying Doctor Service is more than a symbol here. It is a lifeline. When someone breaks a leg or suffers a heart attack, help might be hundreds of kilometers away by road, but a plane can land on a dirt airstrip in minutes. Nurses recount stories of late-night calls where a routine injury turns into a cross-country evacuation. One resident puts it plainly, on the map it is close, on the ground it is another world. In Alice Springs, distance is not just measured in kilometers, but in how carefully you plan for what lies between. In Coober Pedy, adaptation goes deeper than anywhere else in the Outback, literally. Summer temperatures often exceed 40 degrees Celsius, and the ground itself becomes a refuge. Nearly half the town's residents live underground, carving homes, churches, and hotels into the soft sandstone hills. Above ground, the midday sun can bake streets to nearly 50 degrees Celsius, but step down a few meters and the air settles at a steady 22 to 25 degrees Celsius, cool and quiet. For miners like Jimmy, who arrived in the 1960s, the choice was simple: dig or surrender to the heat. He points to the ceiling of his dugout where pick marks from decades ago still catch the light. He says that down here the heat does not own you, a sentiment shared by generations of miners and newcomers alike. Daily routines are shaped by this underground world. Meals are cooked in kitchens ventilated by narrow shafts. Evenings are spent in subterranean pubs, and friendships are forged in the cool silence below the surface. Opal mining is the backbone of Coober Pedy's economy, but luck is fickle. Some days a family might pull a fortune from the earth. Other days they sift through mullock heaps for hours, hoping for a flash of color. When the opal market falters, many turn to tourism, guiding visitors through labyrinthine tunnels and sharing stories of life below ground. The dugout lifestyle is more than shelter. It is a radical answer to an unforgiving climate, a community built on resilience, and a reminder that survival in the Outback means reimagining what home can be. Lake Eyre, known to the Arabana people as Kati Thanda, stretches across the heart of South Australia as a shimmering white salt pan for most of the year. Its closed drainage basin traps every drop of water that flows in, but rain is rare and unpredictable. In 2010 and 2011, a deluge in distant Queensland sent floodwaters racing down ancient channels and transformed the empty basin into Australia's largest lake almost overnight. Scientists tracked the change by satellite, watching as the salt crust gave way to a vast, shallow sea teeming with birds and life. Within months, the water vanished again under the Outback sun, leaving only a memory of abundance. The Outback's reach goes far beyond South Australia. Even Queensland, famous for its rainforests and beaches, is dominated inland by red earth and open sky. Towns like Birdsville, perched at the edge of the Simpson Desert, welcome just over 100 residents but draw thousands each year for the Birdsville races, an event where camels, not horses, thunder down the track. Organizers spend months overcoming heat, dust, and distance, proving that in the Outback, nature always sets the isolation. At Tennant Creek, the airport sits on the edge of emptiness, handling just 3,000 passengers a year, barely enough to fill a city bus every day. In Beduri, fewer than 500 people pass through the terminal annually. Yet these runways are lifelines, kept open by government funding debates and the ever-present threat of emergency. For airport workers, routine means watching for dust storms, not traffic jams. In the Pilbara, the scale changes. Mining camps rely on fly-in, fly-out workers who arrive by plane, stay for weeks, and then return to the coast. During the Marble Bar heat wave, when the mercury soared past 49 degrees Celsius, mining companies switched to night shifts, enforced hydration breaks, and shut down operations when the heat became lethal. No engineering solution can outlast the sun here. Work stops, planes are grounded, and thousands wait for the air to cool. Stretching across 5,600 kilometers, the dingo fence slices through the outback, built to keep predators away from sheep. Its cost, over $8 million a year, sparks arguments between ecologists and farmers. On one side, the fence protects livestock. On the other, it unbalances ecosystems, fueling kangaroo booms and stripping the land. For those who maintain it, the fence is both a barrier and a burden, a symbol of how far people will go to shape a land that refuses to be tamed. Right now, more than 70% of Australia remains virtually empty, yet never untouched. As climate pressures and resource demands grow, the Outback's lessons in resilience and adaptation shape how we confront extremes everywhere. Its vast silence is not absence, but a warning and a possibility. What do you think?